Hi, my name is Dora.
Hi, I'm Jen, and welcome to Two Yogis Talking About Life.
And today we have a wonderful friend and iRest teacher with us, Laurie Angress. I'd love to just introduce Laurie. Laurie's passion to share life-changing iRest and yogic wisdom arises from a deep desire to bring peace and healing to her community. Laurie is a certified iRest meditation teacher and a certified yoga therapist. Through personal experience and work with clients, she discovered that opening to the wealth of intelligence that lies within the body and the stillness of meditation can lead to profound healing, personal growth, and self-compassion. Laurie has completed yoga therapy courses through both Loyola Marymount University and Amy Wheeler's Optimal State Yoga Therapy School, and currently teaches in the mental health module of the Optimal State program and mentors rising yoga therapists. Laurie teaches nervous system regulation classes twice weekly, incorporating iRest online at Cerritos College. Additionally, she currently works for the iRest Institute as a production specialist for live stream iRest retreats and training. She holds weekly group iRest sessions for a local studio in LA. Laurie has a passion for listening, arising out of being a parent to two young adults and her understanding of nonviolent communication. This passion led her to volunteer with the nonprofit listening organization Sidewalk Talk. She also teaches workshops on nonviolent communication to yoga therapists. So, welcome, Laurie.
Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Jen. So fun to be here with you both.
We just wanted to begin by just asking you if you could tell us a bit about what led you to learning or practicing and teaching iRest and yoga.
So, like most people, I came to yoga because of my own body having discomfort. And over the years, that led to me finally deciding, well, if I'm going to, or a desire to want to know more about my own body. My favorite teacher was saying that she was going to deliver the last training ever. And so I thought I would take it. So that was, in 2009. And then after 200 hours, I thought, there's no way I can teach. I don't know enough. We barely scratched the surface. So that led me to yoga therapy and then times two yoga therapy schools. But in there at LMU, I met Richard Miller and we got 8 hours with him as yoga therapy students. And that's when I realized, oh, there's something really deep here in kind of in the under the umbrella of yoga, but it's a specialty within the field. So after I completed the yoga therapy studies, I did one of my papers on mindfulness and how it's important to not just go through the asana practices with mindlessly, but to truly be present to your experience. And then that interest really sort of led me to, well, that this iRest thing is that. It is that mindfulness thing. It is that embodied piece that I thought was missing. And it's not really missing from yoga therapy, but the way it's taught, it can be glossed over, I believe. So that led me down the road of studying iRest and really truly learning what it means to be embodied, what the felt sense of living in this body means and feels like, and how that is such a beautiful combination with the therapeutic yoga. So then it became like they are, I can't separate them now.
Yeah, I love that. I love how iRest can be used in so many different ways, and how so many different modalities can also benefit from having iRest practices that's kind of interwoven, and vice versa. So I'd love to hear more about how you might find yourself using iRest, or how you might be creative with using iRest in itself, or even interweaving them into all the other modalities that you also have training for.
Yeah, thank you for that. It is, there's so many aspects to iRest, as you are both iRest professionals, with the 10 steps and even just the opening, grounding, kind of settling aspects of iRest and really all Yoga Nidra. We can pull different parts of it to start to plant seeds in people's experience, seeds of maybe curiosity, like, oh, where is she? Where are we going now? And, more importantly, dropping in little teachings that support nervous system regulation, support a feeling of ground, a feeling of, oh, this is my body. Oh, I am safe, or I'm not safe. But planting those seeds. What I like to do, particularly, I teach periodically, maybe every 3 weeks for a studio. I teach a community class, an asana class. And the way I weave in iRest is to invite people to feel the asana kind of from the inside. So that interoceptive awareness that is foundational to iRest, I bring that language in to asana class. Notice what you're feeling and sensing kind of language. And maybe I'll open with a 5 senses orientation to the asana class. Maybe even spend a little more time in the tactile body. So now we're going to move the body. I'm here in it. So that opening of class can be that sort of iRest skills. And then, of course, at the end of class, you can bring in any aspect of iRest in your final relaxation or shavasana. So that can be a simple kind of brief and global body scan, or it can be an inner resource practice in shavasana. It could be just simply experiencing opposites in shavasana practice. So those are some of the things that I can do to weave it into a yoga class. That's not, it's not a meditation class. So
I love those creative aspects. I always talk about how I teach puppy yoga because it is kind of the word, just different than what a lot of people do. And I feel like I have to be very creative because a lot of the people aren't necessarily there to do yoga with me. They really just want to pet a puppy. But, I find it like an opportunity to bring them in. And it always makes me feel very honored when I have someone afterwards actually say, I came for the puppies, but, I felt really calm or relaxed and, oh, my body really needed that. So I feel like I have to be very creative in trying to weave it in with puppies running around. Do you have any experiences like that where maybe you've worked with certain audience or in a certain uh, setting where there was like you really had to think out of the box?
first, I did not know you did puppy yoga. Very cool is that? I actually have a friend that does puppy parties, and I'm going to tell her that she can weave in some body sensing into her puppy parties. So that's a really cool creative thing. Yeah, to get people to be in their sensory experience in a deeper way with something tactile like that's outside of us. Have I had to think on the fly? Uh, it's not coming to me right now. What I love to do is, and I think, it might annoy some people, but if someone says they're scared, I'll say, well, this is what I do with the students at the college. When they say how they feel after our 30 minutes, oh, I feel relaxed. I feel calm. You can imagine what I say. So, where in your body does that show up? And that usually causes a bit of a pause, but I'm inviting them to start to use those sensory descriptors. So that's not really thinking outside of the box, but it is starting to help people build a language of their sensations and an embodied experience that's a little more rich. So if it comes to me any more creativity, I'll let you know. But if I see, for example, if I see my daughter, with a blanket on her, I'll say, well, take a moment and what do you notice? What does that blanket feel like? So just kind of bringing this idea of describing sensations in daily life. My husband isn't really an iRest person, so I have to be careful how I ask him. where and how do you notice that? But I just want to do it all the time. I'm just kind of really interested in having people describe how and where they feel something so that they can just sort of be aware that there's a story around it and then there's the actual sensations of it. So that's the main thing that comes to mind right now.
Yeah, I love that because we are not really trained to have that somatic experience, right? And oftentimes, like you're saying, that we can get confused or we start to think that, oh, I feel a certain way, and people often name an emotion, but then they're not really connecting to that body sensation, which is really what the iRest practice is helping us to cultivate, is to have that connection with the body in that way. And I love that you're bringing this in whenever you have a moment to ask people to go just into their own like little inquiry, like where do you feel that in the body, and that kind of opens them up to have an experience that they may not even know that they could have. So I think that's beautiful. Yeah. So you also, we know that you also like to perhaps weave in like loving kindness as a modality or as something that you may weave that into certain practices or into an iRest practice. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so loving kindness from the Buddhist tradition, the metta practice of giving well wishes to another. And there's a format for it, as you probably know, 4 or 5 steps of giving these well wishes to a beloved, someone who's a bit challenging, someone who may be in need or is suffering, yourself, and then lastly, sometimes people add all beings everywhere. So one creative thing I've done with loving kindness outside of iRest is I worked at a private high school once, and I would have I worked one-on-one with students as a yoga teacher. That was the model of that school. I would ask that we would co-create a loving kindness. What is it you're wanting to receive? You know, strength or confidence, so that they would then be creating the phrases, may I be strong, may I be confident, creating the phrases themselves. And then then I'd recite it back to them, whatever 3 or 4 phrases we came up with, I'd recite it back to them in a meditation, and they would give those well wishes outward and then receive them inward. And then once I got more invested and involved in iRest, I make sure to say, with giving and receiving the well wishes, notice how it feels in the body to give these well wishes. Notice how it feels in your body to receive these words from yourself, so that there is a somatic kind of connection to giving and receiving. The most recent, I tend to do it around Thanksgiving because we are a season of giving. And I had a small iRest group weekly, and I know them really well. And one of them was, say someone's struggling with something, I make sure that I weave that something in to the well wishes. So they feel very much like it's a personalized practice. And so where did I put it in? I went through the intention, the inner resource. I did the body rotation, and then maybe I did body breath, and then I did the loving kindness. And then I came back to the breath and the inner resource, and that was it. So it was nice. It was fun. And I don't use the traditional phrases. I don't go the simple route as may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be healthy. I do these long drawn out sentences. May I be safe and free from inner and outer harm. Oh, I know. This is one of them. May I feel and access my inner resource with ease. Something like that. So, because it was in the iRest practice, I wove in, one of the steps of the practice into the loving kindness.
I actually really love the love and kindness one. I remember when I was a beginner, I think I was a beginner uh, meditator or and just starting sort of my journey as a yoga teacher. And it almost made me want to weep, actually. It's just so beautiful, just starting with the self and then going outward to all beings. And then, same, I think over time, I've started to I bring it in more as an intention. So, maybe this is your intention, or maybe there's other words. And then just offering that. And it's always just quite interesting. Like, 'cause I'll look around and you can just see, you know, how people in their expression or their body, how they really, as you say, each of the ones, like, for yourself, for a loved one, for someone you're having challenges with. So it's such an interesting, yeah. So with the loving kindness, then do you bring it in different parts of your when you're offering iRest or a practice like that? Do you like with purpose, like at Thanksgiving, kind of weave them in different places?
Yeah, I don't do it that often. So recently, that was the most recent one. But I have maybe at the end of an asana class, maybe just the loving kindness as a practice standalone by itself.
So you also mentioned that you are involved with the nonviolent communication, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about that because I find that with the iRest practice, languaging is really important. And I love the way that the iRest, how iRest languaging is so permissive and so, kind and so I would just love to hear what you have to say about nonviolent communication, especially for those of us who aren't really familiar with what that is, and how perhaps iRest might fit into that, or some similarities, perhaps.
Yeah, thank you. There is a great similarity, I think, because they're both based on compassion. So nonviolent communication was developed by Marshall Rosenberg in the 70s, and he's a psychologist who realized people were we have so much in common, but why are we not getting along? And it has to do with our we have needs, we have fundamental human needs, and and universal set of feelings. So we have feelings and needs, but we tend to use different strategies to get our needs met. So it's those choice of strategies to get the needs met that often causes the conflict. And then the lack of ability of expressing our needs, or the inability to express our needs, recognize others' needs, and then in the practice of nonviolent communication, we learn how to make requests. So, and there is sort of an underlying thread of curiosity. So if you're in relationship with someone, it benefits us greatly to be curious about, I wonder what their experience is. I wonder what need that they have that's not getting met. Because all behaviors, according to NVC, all behaviors are in service of getting a need met. So when we um, well, there's thousands of examples, but we're all trying to get our needs met. So a toddler poking someone or pulling the hair of another, we could judge that behavior, we could scold that child, but really, wouldn't it benefit us to get curious? So what's going on with that toddler? What need are they trying to get met? Chances are it's connection. They want to play with that other person, or they want to connect in some way. They just chose a poor strategy because maybe they lack language. So the need is connection, and when we can understand that people are acting on trying to get their needs met, then we can have more compassion. And I think curiosity is an underlying foundation of iRest too, where it's a self inquiry. we're inquiring what's here, what wants to be felt, what wants to be met. So I think there's similarities there. And then similarly, Marshall Rosenberg and Richard Miller have a similar vibe. They're both very, they're psychologists, they're calm, they're sort of avuncular, kind of like that you could hang out with them and you'd feel safe kind of thing. Marshall Rosenberg has since passed, and nevertheless, he's all over YouTube and you can listen to his dear voice and learn. So I think those are the similarities, really, the kindness and compassion towards the self and other, and the curiosity, and what are my needs? What is it that I'm needing right now? Is foundational to both practices.
Such a wealth of information and heartfelt. Yeah. So it actually leads perfectly to maybe if there's any other sort of tips that you might have for either maybe people who are just coming to iRest or to this nonviolent communication, maybe how they might be able to integrate it into their own life, or maybe because I believe you also guide yoga therapists. Is there some tips that you could maybe give them as they're sort of moving along their journey?
I think curiosity is super important, to be curious about your own process. Be curious about your thoughts. What is this story I'm telling myself? And recognizing that your thoughts are things that just kind of happen. And can you get curious about them? And be compassionate with yourself, which is part of both practices. And this idea of needs is really important. What is it that I'm needing right now? And can I share it? Can I express it? And then can I ask for support around it? Would you be willing? Would you be willing to help me meet my need for organization or order in the house by putting your clothes away? So this idea of expressing ourselves through our needs can be really valuable. And the iRest practice, I think, helps us get clarity on our needs. So you might even use the iRest practice to discover, what is it that I'm needing? That could be an intention. Do I need more space? Do I need more closeness? What is it that, what is my heart really wanting? So you can use your practice to, in a way, assess your needs. And I think less is more. Don't strive, don't try too hard to figure things out. I'm guilty of that, so I know it's a thing. I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, what should I do? That kind of thing. It's sometimes you just have to be. Just drop everything and be, and let others be. That's what a lesson I'm learning recently in my life is, let others be. When I drop into my own sense of being, my felt sense, my body, my breath, I realize that's really all I need to be worrying about. And I don't mean worrying about it. All I need to be focused on is simply being, and everything else takes care of itself, in the context of when you're trying to control things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Being, I think that's a great reminder because just like you say, we can get caught up with our stories and then we forget that, oh, actually, I just need to be, I just need to connect to myself and just be. So you've had such a long journey in iRest and yoga. What are you most excited about now?
Oh, I am still really a big fan of listening. And that's what led me to the sidewalk talk and listening on the street. And I just wanted to throw that piece in there because listening is a really big part of nonviolent communication and iRest. Because during the practice, aren't we listening to ourselves? We're listening to the sensations as our guide. And in nonviolent communication, we're listening to the other from our heart. So they're both heart-centered practices. And what I'm excited about is to continue, teaching iRest. I keep wondering, why am I not doing my own private group? And, because it's easy to just teach for a studio. And during COVID, I did have my own group running once a week, and it was free or donation based. And I had some military wives that came, which was nice. And another thing I'm excited about is I'm taking a breathwork course in January. And again, I studied the whole year of pranayama with Richard. I've studied all the yogic breathing. So why? Why am I taking another course? Because it's different and it's a buzzword now. And I'm curious, and I'm a lifelong student. And so I'll see how, I'm sure I will weave iRest into that. And they're already teaching lots of stuff that we're already doing in iRest, like the presence process or presence practice. That's what iRest is. But it'll be interesting review, and you just repackage differently, and then a focus on a particular type of breathing. So I'm open to learning always.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love how we can learn from, different teachers and in different ways, and then it all comes together. It's just, maybe packaged differently, or, just something to remind ourselves of what we already know and already feel. And so if people want to continue learning from you, especially after you're doing all these other learning, can you let us know where they can reach you or how they can find you?
Yeah, my website is a bit outdated, but it's certainly a way to contact me. The website, Mindful Yoga Therapy, and my Instagram. I check messages every couple days on the direct messaging on Instagram, and also Facebook messaging. So those are ways. Yeah, I do private yoga. I do private iRest. Yeah, I'm open.
Well, thank you, Laurie, for taking the time to chat with us. It was so amazing to have you on and tell us what's been going on in your world and how you're bringing iRest and all the learnings into your community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, lovely beings, for hosting this and creating this forum for conversation. It's really nice to have conversation, especially when we're so far apart. It feels really connecting. Thank you.
We're very grateful to have you. So thank you for making time.
Honored, beyond honored to be here.
Yay. So, okay. So now this is our outtake part. And just, I'm writing a little note here to remind us to maybe not be so open in our outtake in some ways, I guess, if we're doing an outtake. Yeah, but just see what happens, but maybe no specific clients, or maybe our family members don't want us to talk about something that come up naturally.
Wait.
But yeah, how is that for you? Have you done this before?
It was fun. It was super fun. I have been on two other podcasts actually. Yeah, Amy Wheeler has a yoga therapy hour. She interviewed me on specifically a nonviolent communication, so I did a whole talk on that. And she's a big proponent of it. It's a big part of her school. She wants students to practice amongst themselves, amongst with the faculty, expressing your needs and feelings. And another podcast was with a friend called Confessions of a Free Bird. Free bird meaning a divorced woman who's free. And she interviewed me about yoga and the embodied practices. And that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was I think that Jen and I when we started this podcast we never I mean maybe Jen had always in the background thought that oh we're gonna have all these guests but it just started with us just chatting because we were meeting second week and now we meet monthly with some of the iRest colleagues now, but before we were all doing trainings together and we did certification together. So we created our own little study group. And we're still meeting regularly.
I
And then
love
Jen and I have become good friends and we meet online because she lives in Toronto and I'm here in Santa Barbara. So we would have these meetings and we'll just talk and then we're like, oh, this is like really interesting material. Why don't we start doing just start recording it? So that's how we started. And then now, Jen was like, oh, let's invite some other voices and, hear about their journeys and how they're integrating iRest into their work and their lives. So this kind of just all came about. And we're just so lucky that, so many of you have said yes to us and to, just give up your time and support us in this way.
It's so cool that it happens so organically, just the desire for connection and study and these concepts are very heady sometimes and very it's so helpful to have someone to talk through. I was talking to Denny Shea about that. She was having a regular meeting with someone and I thought, well, I want a regular meeting with someone too. So she and I and another guy, we do meet about once a month, but it's more social, but we're all iRest teachers. And so
Nice.
sometimes the concepts come up, but more social. But I think what you're doing is so rich because you can have a little bit of both, right? The social and the depth of the teachings can come through too. That's fun.
So have you been able to get any of your family sort of hooked on iRest or
No, no. When my son was in high school, he would ask me to do a body scan periodically. So yeah, yeah. And my husband's actually, I took my husband to a 3-day silent retreat with Richard Miller and Ford years
Mm.
ago. And I thought, we're just going to jump in. I was already, in the practice and studying. Um, so I thought it would be interesting. So what I didn't know was that a 3-day retreat there's not teaching happening. You have to kind of know, you have to be comfortable with sitting and meditating. And it wasn't all just iRest guided. It was sometimes just sitting, meditating. So
Mm.
and it was silent. So that was a little rough. He left the room after like the second day. He goes, I don't know what I'm doing. This is your thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So that was hard, but we got through it. He was my partner for partner gazing. And I thought, oh, this is gonna be hard. He's gonna laugh. We're gonna laugh. But we did fine. We did really fine. So that was good. So anyway, I have to be careful bringing him into what he calls my world. So I have to wait for him to be curious.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
periodically talk about what do you notice in your body? And he'll, if I give him enough minutes, he'll come up with an answer. So that's helpful for both of us.
Yeah, these kinds of practices, you really just can't force anyone. They have to be curious because it is a practice of curiosity, really. So if it's not there, you can't force that to be there, right? And then part of it is, just like Richard always says, uh, it, now, now the sentence came and left. But we're always doing the best that we know how, and to trust the process, right?
I like that.
So, and that means that, trusting other people's processes too. So if that's where they need to be, that's where they need to be. Yeah.
Yeah. How's it with your kids? Have you sprinkled any teachings in the home?
Yeah, like my little one, he has big emotions. And so, when he's happy, his whole body has to show it. And when he's angry, his body has to show it. And so just learning how to help him find ways to process emotions in a healthy way instead of like breaking things or, hitting people. That's been a process. And so I'm not a therapist. I don't specialize with working with children, but some of the things that I tried to help him with was, okay, like once he's calm, we talk about it and say, so when you get so angry like that, where do you feel that in the body? And next time, can we notice, is there some heat that comes up first? Or what happens before you get to a place where you feel like you need to break something? Like, do you notice or do you remember what happened before then? And then so he started practicing that. And then it was just been really interesting that he'll come up to me and says, "Oh, Mom, guess what? I felt this, or I felt heat and I felt that. And I think it's going to progress into that direction." But then he was able to talk about it, and so it doesn't have to go there, right? Um, so that was really interesting. He's seeing a therapist now to help him get more specialized help, but I found it was really helpful just to sprinkle in some of the things that we do in iRest, and that was supportive to him.
Mm.
And then my eldest child, once in a while when he can't sleep, he'll say, "Mom, I'm having trouble sleeping. Can you do a meditation?" So I'll just sit next to his bed and basically do a body sensing, really. And then he will just fall asleep. So yeah, and I just do it when they ask. They know that I'm here. Sometimes they'll ask for Reiki if they remember and says, "Oh, I have a
Mhm.
headache. Can
Oh,
you
no.
Reiki me?"
Oh, I love it. That's so
So
great.
yeah.
How do you
Yeah,
feel?
I wish I had known more when my kids were younger, teens. I remember saying to my son, he would be very scared at night of something that wasn't there. And I would say, can you feel the fear? And just feel the fear and sit here anyway. And that was before
Mm.
I studied iRest. So I was a lot, I was moving toward that before I knew what I was doing. But yeah, we get to the practice when we get to it, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I don't know if anything else is arising, but this has been a beautiful experience together.
Yeah. So fun. No bloopers. No bloopers so far. You don't have to bleep me at all. I
You're
hope.
so comfortable. You're so comfortable
I
like
don't think we
this.
had to bleep anyone yet, have we?
Okay.
It's a different kind of conversation.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll think of more fun things to talk about when we close the call. Isn't that how it always is?
Yeah. And you probably we'll probably ask you to update some things so that, when we present this later on, because it's not going to be till next year, maybe there's some new things. So that'll be exciting to see, maybe you'll be deeper into your breath studies. So
Yeah.
share that
Yeah.
with us to share with everybody else.
Yeah. I would like one of the other things I paid for and to study was this AI design back in the summer. I spent a bunch of money on a course and just to do AI portraits and AI, imagery for a website and do branding, helping people with branding. Really, it started with myself, helping me with branding, And I thought, well, if I do nothing else, I want to update my own website. So here we are, I'm 6 months in, and I'm just barely scratched the surface. But maybe soon I will have the skills, because it's a deep dive into all of these different tools to then, make your website look whatever, update it using AI. It's a big learning curve, because it's a lot of computer time, a lot of different apps. You got to layer it. You got to use this for that and that for that, and it's not very yogic because I end up holding my breath.
I was just about to say, like, it's like, whoa, this is like completely the other direction, right? Going, but yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
So
but
cool
it's
that you're
fun,
getting into that.
it's fun. It's fun to use your hands and your your creative mind for visual stuff.
That brings back the creativity. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. We look forward to seeing, what, happens with your AI training and your websites, and we'll direct people towards that. And yeah, we just really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Laurie.
Yeah.
So good to see you. I hope we get to do Ford's training again, Dora. Or
I hope
something else.
so. It's every second year, right?
I
So
think it's on that, every other year schedule, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I'll see you on another event, Jen, I'm sure too.
Yeah. I think we're all in the Dharma in the Dharma talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see each other.
Yeah, I haven't been able to make it live the last couple of ones, so I have to watch
Yeah.
the recordings. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop here and thank you. Let me just stop here.
Okay.